the last three items in the 10 precepts associated with the mind, which is no craving desire, no anger, and no ignorance, or sometimes translated as no stupidity. No craving desire. The craving desire means something you like to have and you cannot have, you want it so much. That's craving desire. Or sometimes you do have something and people ask you and you don't want to give out. That's also craving desire. That's why Buddha teaches us try to perform almsgiving in order to overcome the problem of craving desire, attachment, don't want to let it go. There are quite a few Buddhists who can practice and be able to let it go worldly reputation and wealth. But is craving desire already gone? However, they do not let go their craving desire to the attachment of Buddha Dharma. Anything, any method, any teaching, they want to grab it. They don't let it go. The Buddha Dharma teach about let go of the craving desire. Now, we simply change the object of craving desire, but the fundamental nature of attachment won't let it go, still there. And the next one is the natural result of craving desire, that is anger. When you cannot obtain what you want, or you don't want to let it go, something it has to be let it go, then anger comes and follows. And the last one is stupidity or ignorance. So altogether, these three items explains why there's realm of three lowest realms. Because with craving desire, that is the cause of to be born in the future in the realm of hungry ghosts. With anger, that plants the seed for future causes to be born into the hell. With stupidity and ignorance, which is unable to tell right from wrong, evil from good, or good from evil, real from unreal, and that is the seed of to be born in the future as in the animal world. So these three poisons produce tremendous vexations and causing the generation of three lowest realms. Zen masters knows the problem and the severity of the problem. That's why they practice to remove the three poisons and deal directly with the mind. And that's exactly the 10 precepts. The last three items is three poisons associated with the mind. Only deal with the mind properly, the three poisons can be removed. But even one does this, let's go back to the three requirements of so-called three pure karma. Be affiliate to your parents as one, and respect your teacher as 2, and compassion without killing as 3, and the fourth item among the first requirement is practice the 10 precepts. If you can possess the 4 items associated with first requirement, it's only considered to be a great person on a worldly level. To possess the three requirements, to be born into any Buddha land, past, present, and future, this 4 good aspects for the first requirement still not enough. There are 2 more requirements need to be satisfied. In Taiwan, nowadays the government promotes something called good people and good deed. Do they really possess the 4 items as mentioned in the first requirement? I remember my teacher, Mr. Li Binnan, he write down on the blackboard, good people, good deed. And good in Chinese happen to have another pronunciation, means attach to good things, attach to good deeds. So that turned out to be made a seeking of reputation and called good people and good deeds. The true good people and true good deeds is not seeking for reputation. Now we move on to the second requirement of the second virtues of the three virtues, which is the foundation of Theravada Buddhism. The translation of Theravada Buddhism was already done and well introduced into Chinese. However, at the Tang Dynasty, at the ending time of Tang Dynasty, the Theravada Buddhism and its translation kind of decayed in China. And the Sutra translation associated with Theravada Buddhism are pretty much complete when comparing against Theravada Buddhism Sutra written in Pali. The Pali Sutra only have about 50 sutras extra than the Chinese translated Chinese Theravada Sutras. The reason is, in ancient China, the Confucius disciples and Laozi, Zhuangzi's disciples, they emphasize tremendously about respect and filial and those foundations. That's why, naturally, they don't need that. They practice and emphasize on the Mahayana Buddhism. And they have great masters, people who reach spiritual achievements. Unfortunately, today, we do not have the foundation as the ancient Chinese people who are knowledgeable and well-behaved by following the Confucius teaching and Laozi Zhuangzi's teaching as foundation. And also, today's people do not practice. Teacher probably mentioned primarily the Chinese aspect. Do not have the foundation of Theravada Buddhists. Therefore, we still try to practice Mahayana, even though we try real hard. It's like building our building starting from the second floor without foundation. That's why there's no great masters in the today's Mahayana Buddhism, particularly the Chinese type. The three virtues, second one, is based on the first virtue as foundation. That is, therefore, the second virtue is the practice of the Theravada Buddhism, you may say that, which is based upon first virtue to be a real good person in the worldly standard. And only when those are satisfied, then one can become a Dharma practitioner and start with the Mahayana level. And then one seriously take initiation ceremony and respect and follow original teacher Buddha Shakyamuni and practice all one's lifetime. And the teacher will then give the criteria of cultivation or practice to us. That is the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, called three triple gems. In the ancient time, people understand the true meaning of three triple gems. But today, when people say, take homage to Buddha, thinking about the statue. Take refuge in the Dharma, thinking about the books written in black. Talk about taking refuge in the Sangha, thinking about the monks. And that is already incorrect. That's why perhaps sixth patriarch, the enlightened master, Zen master in Tang Dynasty, realized this may become a problem in the future, in the Dharma ending time. So he said in his Six Sutra platform that instead of a Buddha Dhamma Sangha, he simply pointed out to the meaning behind this. To take refuge in the enlightenment without confusion. To take refuge in the righteousness, meaning to obtain proper view and proper knowledge. And take refuge in purity, so that the six roots are all pure and away from contamination. That's the true meaning of Triple Gem. The enlightenment of the self-nature, the righteousness of the self-nature, and the purity of the self-nature is what one should take refuge to, take refuge in. The true homage is to turn one around from confusion into enlightenment, to turn one around from from evil or improper to righteousness and properness, to turn around from impurity back to purity of the self-nature. If one understands the true meaning of taking refuge and not just confused by, not just stay on the surface, then one will be protected by 36 Dharma protectors day and night. And this is what the sutra mentioned. And to take refuge really means two aspects in Chinese. Number one, turn around. Number two, be reliant upon. Turn around from those negativities and be relying to or upon the enlightenment, purity, and the righteousness. For the first one, to turn from confusion around and return to enlightenment, we talk about Amitabha of self-nature. So when we turn around to Amitabha, we also turn around into Amitabha of the self-nature. When we are born to be into the Pure Land, it is the Pure Land of the true mind that is from within. So if one understands the true meaning, then one is truly returned to the good aspect of the self-nature. The second taking refuge is to take refuge in the Dharma. And that really means to possess the proper knowledge and understanding, which is the understanding and knowledge of Buddha's viewpoint. So when one truly takes refuge in the Dharma, one is returning to the precious Dharma within one's self-nature. And therefore one really returns to the self. And the great Buddha, why he is so great? He's not leading us by the hand. He simply point out the true place that one should return to, and not blindly follow the doctrine. That's why Buddha is great, in that he makes us become independent and return to the true self-nature. He merely providing assistance at the side, but not controlling or manipulating us. The next is talk about take refuge in the Sangha. The meaning of the Sangha is purity. So take refuge in purity, meaning to turn around from contamination and return to the purity of the self-nature. Turn around from contamination of what type? Of 5 types of desire and 7 types of emotions. And to turn those things around, because for average people, when the mind interfaces with the environment, and then desires and attachments naturally arises. So if one can deal with things and still maintain the purity of the mind, that's truly taking refuge in the Sangha of purity, which is within the self-nature. So, in summary, to take refuge in the Buddha, it really means to be enlightened and not confused. To take refuge in the Dharma, meaning to have proper understanding and viewpoint and not have wrong, incorrect, improper thinking. To take refuge in the Sangha really means to be constantly in purity without contamination. And that is the cultivation of Buddha Dharma and its 3 criteria. And those 3 things are not external, but all within our self-nature. So if one truly realizes every single moment at any place, our mind needs to be in the enlightened aspect, to be returned to the enlightened aspect, in the proper knowing aspect, in the purity aspect, then one is truly taking refuge. Although we talk about taking 3 types of refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and the meaning of Buddha Dhamma Sangha has been explained, but the 3 things are actually one, and one is no different than 3. Because if one has a proper view like that of the Buddha, then one is bound to be enlightened, or fully realized, and one's mind is bound to be pure. Or look for another aspect. If one is fully realized, then one's viewpoint will be proper, and one's mind will be pure. So this is like entering into the shrine room from 3 different doors. When you are outside, it's different. Once you pick up a door and enter into the place, it is the same. Taking 3 refuge, it doesn't mean 3 things. Eventually, it's one thing. It's just like the place have 3 doors. You can pick up any door. So the doors are the door of enlightenment, which is basically what Zen Buddhism are. They pick up this door to be fully enlightened, and you may say they enter into the Buddha Dharma through the gate or the door of enlightenment. And the next one in Chinese Mahayana are basically other schools. They are very good in all kinds of Mahayana sutras, such as Tiantai, Flower Adorned schools, and many other schools. They are practicing to enter the door of proper views, of Buddha's view. And therefore, they enter into the same destination, but through a different door, the door of proper view, proper understanding. And there's another door, the 3rd one, is the door of purity, which is the Pure Land school and Buddha's esoteric teaching of Vajrayana Buddhism are taking. This door is a door of purity, to purify the mind, and therefore enter into the heart, the core of Buddha Dhamma. And from this, therefore, in principle, in theory, all Dhammas are equal. The gates may be different, the destination is the same. And there's, in principle, in theory, nothing is higher than the other. However, in reality and individuals' karmic conditions, to enter through the door of enlightenment, 6 patriarchs and all the great masters realized only students with the best quality are capable to go through, to enter into the Buddha Dharma's core through the door of enlightenment. And the other door of proper view and understanding, similar to Buddha, that everybody can do. Just spend time and study all kinds of sutras, but it takes longer time. Therefore, the best door to enter will be through the door of purity, through the Pure Land school practice and Vajrayana Buddhism's practice. And that explains why in the Dhamma ending time, these 2 schools and their disciples or students outnumber other schools. And that's why they are very popular, as we can see today. However, the Pure Land school, their practice is even more easier, and to achieve achievement even more easier. So that pretty much tells you all kinds methods, all kinds doors, but they all end up to the same place. So in principle, in theory, there's nothing higher than the other. It's just up to the student's capacity and the karmic condition, which door is the best for you to enter. And with this understanding, then we truly know the meaning of taking refuge Otherwise, just take refuge to something. What is that something? It's not fully understood. Now we truly understand the meaning of taking refuge. Now, I have explained clearly in theory, but still in reality, in our daily life, in our individual practice, what is the Buddha Dharma Sangha that we should take refuge to? If you are practicing the Flower Adorned Sutra and that teaching, then the Buddha
是法身佛哈，是法身佛，毗卢遮那法身佛。
is the Dhammakaya Buddha, in Chinese called Pinujana Buddha. The sutra that you should take refuge to is the Flower Adorned Sutra. And the Bodhisattva, Universal Goodness Bodhisattva and the Manjushri Bodhisattva is the Sangha that you should take refuge to. If you practice mainly the wonderful flower sutra as your daily practice, then your refuge of Buddha Dhamma Sangha should be original teacher as your main deity, as the Buddha, and the wonderful flower sutra as your sutra. And the Sangha would be all the Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas mentioned in the wonderful flower sutra. If you are a Pure Land school student in your practice, what is your triple gems specifically in your case? Amitabha would be your Buddha and main deity. The Infinite Life Sutra would be your sutra or the Dhamma that you take refuge to. And the Sangha would be Guanyin or Avalokitesvara and the great spiritual powers, Surya Bodhisattva, that's the word translation of the name. In I forgot the English. It's called or Tibetan words for the other one. No, the other one next to the Amitabha Buddha is the that when I think about our mention. But in Chinese, it basically means the great spiritual powers, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. And when we take a refuge to the Sangha for the Pure Land school student, you need to practice and follow the example of Guanyin's compassion. And you need to follow the great spiritual power Bodhisattva's example in his single-mindedness in practicing the chanting of Amitabha. And it's mentioned in the Surangama Sutra that the great spiritual power Bodhisattva, from his very beginning in practicing Buddhism, he started with chanting Amitabha until finally he became totally enlightened. In between, he never used other methods, other experience, other skillful means, only practicing the chanting of Amitabha Buddha method. And he also pointed out in this Surangama Sutra, the principle of the practice Amitabha Buddha method is to have the pure thought continue by itself. And that's all. Very simple method and very precise instruction. The pure thought means no mixing with other thoughts. No doubt in the mind. That's considered pure thought. And continuous practice means non-stop. If you keep this way, you automatically reach enlightenment. You find your true Amitabha of your self-nature from within. And that is the example that great spiritual power Bodhisattva has set up for us. There's a famous Chinese master called Xia Linji in this modern time who passed away already in mainland China. He has a book called Pure Land Practice, the Essential Pure Land Practice. Or you may simply translate it as the shortcut of Pure Land Practice. In his book, he mentioned and respects the original teacher of Pure Land School is the great spiritual power Bodhisattva. And when I read this thing, I feel very happy and very completely supporting this viewpoint, because in the sutra, this great Bodhisattva is the first patriarch in the universe who practiced Amitabha method and has achieved enlightenment. For the human beings, in the human world, the first patriarch who teach a Pure Land method is Universal Goodness Bodhisattva. And in China, the original and the first patriarch of the Pure Land school is a Chinese master, Lu Shan Huiyan, master of Tang Dynasty, Tang Cao. In Jin Dynasty. When I came to this country, United States, my teacher encouraged me to transmit or bring the Pure Land teaching and methods into United States. And I have established the first center in Dallas, practicing, promoting only the Pure Land's approaches. And my room is, the wall is like 21 feet, but the statue is only 4 feet. So the majority of the wall seems empty. I was thinking about how do I find a big statue and afford to have this painting. But when I returned to my center, a student of mine received a gift. Don't know who gave us that spiritual gift. They only mentioned this is to be offered to the first center in the United States on Pure Land School, about Pure Land School, is a Buddha statue of the three holiness of the Western Pure Land. When I open up this picture, it shows Amitabha with an Indian face. It shows Guan Yin with a Chinese face. And it shows great spiritual power Bodhisattva with an American face. I was so excited. I said, now the Pure Land truly arrived in the United States, because we have an American face, great spiritual Bodhisattva. And he happened to be the first patriarch in the universe who practiced solely Amitabha method. So the Pure Land School student taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, let me repeat that. The Buddha, your main deity, is Amitabha. The Dharma is the Infinite Life Sutra. And the Sangha is follow the example of Guan Yin, Avalokitesvara, and the great spiritual power Bodhisattva, which is called in Vajrayana the Vajrapani Bodhisattva Mahasattva. That's your Sangha. However, there's definitely a need of so-called reciting triple gems, which is Buddha statue and sutra books and Sangha monks or nuns. Because of the Buddha statue and the monk and nun and the sutra books can remind us of the self triple gems from within. So that's also very important. It has its special function as a reminder. Therefore, when we do the chanting of a sutra, we are not chanting to the Buddha, because Buddha teaches us the sutra. We don't need to teach him by chanting. We are chanting into our own heart and make that and cultivate ourselves so that our thinking in daily life will be in proper accordance with what's described in the sutra. And for when seeing a monk or nun, no matter they are pure or not pure, no matter they follow precepts or not precepts, it is a good blessing, because without hair, that image reminds us, I need to return from contamination around and back to purity. That is a very good reminding when we see the home living monks or nuns. So in Buddha Dharma, the cultivation is realization, proper viewpoint, and purity. And the destination is to obtain the great perfection of the self-nature. And all Dharma gates and Dharma methods, no matter how different, no matter how many types, they are not away from the three major gates, the Buddha gate, the Dharma gate, and the Sangha gates. And no matter, as a person who practices Pure Land, I know I come from the door of purity, and therefore we should not criticize Vajrayana Buddhism or Zen Buddhism, because they too come from a different gate into the same place. It's just like coming to this temple for tonight's lecture. Some people come by driving, some people come here through walking. Since they get here eventually, we should not despise them for not taking the bus or something. In Huntsville, Alabama, in my lecture, a person asked me, Buddha Dharma are so rich in theory and everything, I don't know how to start it. It's so complicated. And it happened to be a boy next to me. I lift the ball and point to him. Looking from different locations of the sphere, they are all different. But no matter where you start, if you start to the center of the sphere, it is the final and same destination. Don't go around wasting your energy. Starting what you think the best and looking toward the right direction, which in this case, the center of the sphere or the ball. You will be there eventually, and there's no difference. The key or the secret is be dedicated and single-minded in whatever approach you take. And eventually you'll obtain samadhi, and eventually you obtain wisdom and liberation. I also like to point out, in related to taking refuge to the Sangha. If you take refuge to the Sangha, or one teacher, one great master, and only that person, that can causing a future possible cause of being born into the hell. I'm not frightening you with this statement. Because Sangha is complete one purity in the universe. If you only pay a special respect to one teacher, and then discriminating mind eventually brings different treatment to other teacher, and you eventually and unintentionally breaking the Sangha groups. And according to the sutra, 5 serious violations of 5 serious sins are bound to be born into the hell, which is kill your father, kill your mother, kill Buddha or let the Buddha blood come out, and kill Arahant, the saint, and break or disintegrate the Sangha group and organization. So if you follow one and only that one, you are potentially creating the scene of which eventually lead into the hell. And then it's very sad and shameful. Without taking refuge, you won't even create such a heavy scene. By taking the refuge without proper understanding, we end up into the hell eventually. That's very sad. Therefore, you don't have to take refuge from every monk each time. You take refuge from one which represents all the Sangha, and that's it. And therefore, today I have already transmitted to you through the lecture the true meaning of taking refuge. We don't need any ceremony, and please give me a release, not asking for Dharma name. So if you understand the true meaning, you are a true disciple of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. There's no need for ceremony or Dharma name. Thank you. We only cover the second virtue among 3 virtues, which has the second virtue or second requirement contains 3 items. We only cover the first item of the second virtue. And the time has already almost 9:30. So we have to stop now. But this is very important. The second virtue or second requirement talk about taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.